Hey, I'm Charlie Fox. I'm a marine meteorologist, and just to give you some kind of background here, growing up in the 70s and 80s here, we had tons of sand, and there was a reason for that. When they finished the harbor, we got like 2 million plus cubic yards of sand. So adding beach was not on anybody's mind back then. We were flush. Okay, so over time, we do lose sand. There is some attrition, some loss, some leaks of the sand, but this system is so good in San Clemente, it's hard to notice. We have bookends. Think of Dana Point, think of Cotton's Point or San Mateo Point. Our sand is pretty much trapped in this bay, and it's just going to move around under the sway of waves. So we need sand. We are in a major deficit. The point is, we haven't done anything since then. These little drops in the bucket, those haven't, it's great, we need to do that. But we dropped the ball, and we let this fantastic embayment, just because it traps sand so effectively, we weren't realizing that every year we lose a little bit of sand to offshore and just different places, you know, leaks out to the south, leaks to the north. But the point is, we haven't done anything about it. We've done, like I said, little things, but we need to add sand. And just imagine if we added the proper amount of sand and then just maintenance as the years go on, we'd be fine. We've done the right thing by setting up all of this proper flood channeling, but because of that, from everything from the mountains to the sea, those channels work so well, they're not bringing that sediment that we used to get naturally. So this is why we have to add sand into the system. A really important question today. Sand is a waste of money. In other words, if we dump sand on the beach, it's just going to go away. Okay, so no, it's not. It's going to move. The unique thing about adding sand in San Clemente is we're in a bay. Think about it. We got our sand that collects throughout the bay, and it's bound by two bookends, Dana Point and Cotton's Point. So our sand, when we put it out there, is going to swash and move around, and it's going to settle in lower energy areas within this bay. But overall, the loss of sand in San Clemente is very minimal. Plus, we're in such an enormous deficit, we need sand. Question, what happened to all that sand that we dumped, that 200,000 cubic yards, last winter down at T Street in the pier area? We had a lot of northwesterly, locally generated wind swell. And so that moves waves, which move sand south. Okay, so we're talking, you know, the beaches of the whole. You started seeing that peach-colored sand moving down to Lost Swin and Riviera and State and even down to Cotton's Point. And people say, oh no, and it's just going to go south. No, it doesn't. At Cotton's Point, like a giant groin, better than a groin because it has waves moving from south to north because of the bathymetry, it gets trapped in this little system. The interesting thing about Cotton's Point, I'm going to address another issue right now. People are saying, oh, we need groins. We need to be like Newport Beach. No, we don't. We have the most biggest natural groin we could ever dream of, and that's Cotton's Point. And it's even better because it's not just sand that accumulates along this structure, which it accumulates along this, the bathymetric structure that extends offshore. But at the same time, no matter which direction of swell, whether it's northwest or southwest, waves focus at Cotton's and they break left. Okay, they're lefts. They move towards the north. That moves water. That water moves sand. So it's like a conveyor belt. So even though all this sand is moving down coast, you would think, oh, it's just going to go south and disappear. No, it doesn't, because of that bathymetric arrangement at Cotton's Point. And if any of you walked down there, you saw this past early in 2025, all that beach that had formed out in front, and you could ride your bike by and walk during low tide, which we haven't seen in 5 years since the rail dropped all those rocks down there. Not only that, the visible beach we saw, but in the surf zone. So the natural cycle of waves is when the waves get bigger, they crash up onto the beach, they take sand, they move it offshore, sandbars form. Okay, so now we have sandbars. Waves are now breaking further offshore. So the wave breaks offshore, that wave attenuates. In other words, it gets weaker and smaller as it gets towards the beach, and when it laps up on the beach, it's not so corrosive. Then when the waves get small, those sandbars migrate back, and then we see the visible beach. So not only do we need sand on the beach, but we need it in the near shore. So if we dump it out, happens to be a big storm, oh, where's all the sand? It's gone. No, it's not. It moved. It moved in the surf zone. Might have moved down coast, up coast, but again, it's in our embayment. We just need a lot more sand. That was a drop in the bucket. Well, if you talk to a surfer, especially right after this, we had the wave events moving the sand all over the place, but particularly to the beaches to the south within our embayment. One thing you noticed, something we haven't seen in quite some time, sandbars. And what does a sandbar do? It makes waves break. And when waves break, surfers are stoked on that and they have somewhere to surf. So we need sand to make beaches, but also to make sandbars to surf. We have been living off of this massive injection of sand 55 years ago when they finished the harbor in Dana Point. And this system is so good. Cotton's Point acts like a giant natural groin that basically keeps or prevents sand from leaking out. Little bit does sometimes, but most of the time there's a northward drift there because of the bathymetry. So we have a system that holds sand, and it took 55 years to kind of get us to where we are now. Let's get another big injection. We have an opportunity to add sand into this system. So let's do it.